Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Zach Collins and this is Financial Education. The financial advice landscape is really tough to navigate, and so today what I want to do is I want to go through how you actually become a financial advisor here in Australia, as the pathway keeps changing and is different to how you do it in other parts of the world. One thing I would like to point out is that it is illegal to provide financial advice, being either personal or general advice, without having a license. ASIC has a broad definition of advice, but you can essentially boil it down to two things. You can't talk about products or platforms. That's why I stick to just providing general information in my videos for now, as I'm currently unlicensed. However, about 18 months ago, I was actually a financial advisor. You can still find me on the ASIC FAR, our financial advisor register. I will link it below for people to check out and see if other supposed advisors are listed as having licenses. My knowledge might be a little bit outdated, but as I said, I was licensed about 18 months ago, and I'm in the process of getting that license back. I'm not sure what I would do with it, or if it's even worth it considering the cost. I'm not actually really using it or benefiting from it, but it's more the principle of having it. Anyway, so what do you need to do to become a financial advisor? The times and requirements have changed so much over time. However, from my understanding currently, in order to meet the first hurdle to become a financial advisor, you need a degree in financial planning. This is actually quite limiting, as the amount of universities that even offer a financial planning course is quite limited. Secondly, there were a few unis that weren't even able to get a financial advisor course accredited, meaning the whole degree was essentially worthless. I remember seeing an article about that a few years ago. I'm not actually sure if it's still an issue, but if you do want to become an advisor, make sure you check whether or not your university actually offers the course, and secondly, if it's accredited. There are a few different ways that you can go about getting the degree, either as a bachelor or as a master's. But there used to be a whole heap of people that would do a diploma of financial planning, and that's how they would become advisors. However, the education requirement has been significantly increased, and so further study would be required if that was the only tertiary education for that person. I was personally lucky that I was able to do a bachelor with two majors at my university. I started doing a Bachelor of Commerce, however I switched over after about the first semester into a Bachelor of Accounting, and this allowed me to do two majors, one in accounting, the other in financial planning. And luckily my course was an accredited course, and so I was accepted as the first prerequisite into becoming a financial advisor. For all new students, I would highly recommend doing 2 degrees or 2 majors. The financial advisor major allowed me to pursue that role, and then later on I was able to pursue my current role due to my accounting major. So having both allowed me to choose which path I want to follow. However, a co-worker I used to work with did just a straight degree in financial planning. I mean, that's good in and of itself, but it does limit him to sticking with that financial advisor as a career. Anyway, the next step in the process is something called the professional year. It's also known as PY. So PY is the hardest step in the process. My old boss, for some reason, will call it an internship. I disagree on the terminology. I'd call it more of an apprenticeship. You're taught every step in the process of providing advice. The PY curriculum, as I call it, is different to each firm, and there's not really a standard education process. However, it will give you a foundational knowledge required to become a great advisor. The problem when it comes to the PY is that not all firms offer it, as it does cost them quite a decent amount of money to put someone through it. And as it costs quite a lot, firms want to make sure that the people that they do put through it, they're likely to stay with them once they're done. The most common pathway to get to PY after graduation is to get a job with a firm, either as a power planner. This is essentially just someone that writes the statement of advices documents, SOAs, as directed by the advisor, or as a client service administrator, CSA. This is more of an admin role. Knowing both roles is actually really important if you ever want to start your own firm in the future, as it's very hard to get clients. So you'll probably be a one-person firm doing all the work for quite a while, and it would be highly recommended getting into a role like this and learning all the ropes, as it really helps with the advice formulation process. Once you've been in the role for about a year or so, frequently, that is when the firm will offer to put you through PY. I haven't seen any firms offer a PY position, straight from uni, but I'm sure there are definitely going to be some. Over the course of the whole PY, you will need to do a ton of training. There are specific breakdowns, about the different categories, like technical, client service, ethics, etc. And you'll need to do a minimum of about 40 hours per quarter, which gives you about 160 hours for the whole year. Once you finish PY, you only need to do about 40 hours of CPD. So you can see that you're doing more than 4 times what an advisor does in a normal year in training. When you start your PY, there are essentially 4 different stages. The first 2, learning the background of the advice process, sitting in on meetings, writing the advice documentation, and preparing the transaction forms. The second half is providing advice to clients. When you do present to clients, you will need your mentor, which is another financial advisor, there with you, as you are not legally allowed to provide the advice on your own. You are doing it as a representative of that advisor. While you are providing advice to clients, you'll also still be doing the admin and prep work on the side. Between these 2 halves, there is an exam that must be passed in order to start the second half. I'm not entirely sure what it's called these days, but when I did it, it was called the FASIA exam. This is because it was administered by FASIA, and that stands for the Financial Advisor Standards and Ethics Authority. That got canned, even back when I was an advisor. If you've been paying attention, while you're at uni and when you're doing your mandatory CPD training, the exam will be a breeze. I remember leaving with about an hour left on the time, and I passed first go. Look, I mean, it's not an easy exam, but it's also not supposed to be super difficult either. It's comprised of about 3 sections of multiple choice, short answer, and long answer. Once you've finished a professional year, you are a full-fledged advisor, and you can provide both specific advice to clients and general advice. If you've been following along, you see that's a really long and tedious process to become a financial advisor. You first need to get your 3-year degree. Then you need to get into PY. This can be immediately or it can take a few years. I started after about 2 years at my previous firm, and then PY itself is another year. So that's a minimum of about 5 to 6 years. 4 if you're lucky and can streamline it, but it's a long time from start to finish to become a registered financial advisor. Hopefully, I'm going to give you a better understanding of the steps required in order to become a financial advisor and allow you the decision on whether or not it's worth pursuing the profession. If you have any more questions, please feel free to drop a comment below. I will make sure to answer if I can. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.